You have to excuse me for this episode of Real Talks. I just got back from a run and it's cold out. The wind blows in your face and makes it feel like you're in a freezer and that your nose is about to break off if you push too hard on it and that your lips are sealed with peanut butter from how numb they are. So I guess we're all going to have to deal with that this time. But I'm not worried. I'm not going to fret over it. I hope you don't either. I hope you don't cry and embarrass yourself in front of everyone, but I won't. And in fact, fretting, I guess, panicking, losing control over that which can't be controlled. That is sort of the discussion for today, and it stems sort of from the week of discussion I've had for the past two episodes that involves unpredictability in the future and kind of the emotions that come from that and the fears that stem from it. That's basically what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I'm still tired, but I'm just going to try to articulate this. When I was out there running in the wilderness, in the deep wilderness with all the bears and bees watching and everything, I noticed that I was ruminating a lot on sort of current circumstances in my life. I was just thinking about how I might tackle them. I was trying to problem solve like I tend to do. I was analyzing and dissecting and putting all the pieces together and looking at what was there in front of me, the picture in front of me. And I realized at the beginning of the run, I really didn't like that picture. It was jumbled. It was chaotic. I didn't really know what to do about it because it was a picture of the future, and that future is always unforeseeable for me. But even this time, this moment that I looked at it, it was even more unforeseeable because it kind of was working off of some more negative things that I've been dealing with, specifically today. I didn't have a good morning, and I was kind of running off that little moment in the day where things started off pretty poorly. And so when I was trying to construct the narrative that was positive of the future, I was kind of in a black and white state, thinking in the present in the most negative way that, I don't know, the person who I am now might struggle in the future. Like the imperfections and all of the pain that I go through in my life. It's going to culminate in disaster, or it's going to become something that gets in the way of my own personal happiness and success in life. And that was stressful. And I kept running and I kept going down the trail and looking at the woods and thinking that I hear bears and stuff, taking out my headphones, looking around because it gets fucking scary out there. It's paranoia inducing. And I noticed I just kept listening to the same song over and over again. It was Violent Crimes by Kanye West. And in the beginning, part of the little hook, part of the chorus, it's like kind of like a lullaby. And part of it is, it was all part of the story, even the scary nights. And I kept hearing that. I kept hearing that part over and over again. And it kept affirming piece by piece, bit by bit, the notion that these moments, these scary feelings that I have in my life, the pain that I cause myself, the pain that I'll project out into the world, hopefully to not hurt people, but maybe even make people think lesser of me. All of that is truly a tool to be used in the future. And not only that, because that's like something everyone can grasp onto, I feel like, but what really hit is that it truly is part of a grand story that I'm in, a story called life, a life that I use all of these things for, but also a life that I can look back at and say, look at who I was. Look at that character there. Look at that protagonist in his own story who was trying to do the best for himself in each moment. Look how he reflected. Look how he did things and how he did them well. And that made the unpredictability of where I might be going in my life so much less stressful. And so that's kind of why I talk about this today. I talk about it because those moments where we get the opportunity to reflect, it allows us to open our perspective to something different, something entirely different. And I would say for me, it was that I was in the present so much so, not in a mindful way, but in a way that was, let's just say, panic induced, being present through problem solving and calculated efforts to fix some bullshit that I was going through. I was so in that I didn't realize that, yes, the present moment that I'm in is the culmination of the past and it determines the future. But it's just one pinpointed small moment within all of that. One small moment. And that is something we can all tell ourselves. But until that sinks in through emotion, through a direct feeling that's powerful, it can be hard to absorb it. And I noticed as I kept running, as the fucking, chemicals started flowing through my noggin, things started to feel better. And in that, I was allowing my emotions to take over the pain through something positive. And then that sink into the affirmation that said, it's all part of the story. And I guess if I was to correlate it to something more philosophical here, which is what these real talks are supposed to be, it is that go with the flow mentality of things. It's that stoic mindset, let's say, that the pain is sort of there. It's there present in all life. And life flourishes through that pain. And then that pain ends up taking over that life again. And it's a cycle. And we all just kind of sit and revel in that. We exist within that. And the pain can be in front of me, it can be behind me, it can be to the sides of me, it can be within, it can be outside, it doesn't matter. That pain's present, and I note it, and I use it. And that pain becomes pleasure when I find gratification through it. When I find a path, when I find a way to cope with it, a method, a methodology to treat the pain that boils within, I cool it with something external or internal. And I did that. I did that by running through the woods. I did that through the thought process that I've learned through many years of treatment and personal experience. I've done that, and it feels good to assert that will upon something so painful. It's comforting. It shows that pain doesn't have the sway over me that it used to. Unfortunately, not all of us are like that, though. A lot of us, we see pain and we run away from it, and it's scary, and rightfully so, because pain can spell disaster, whether it's from our own accord or for something else. And that unpredictability of what pain might cause us is just another layer to it. When we can't predict things, we can't control things, it seems. And we like to control. In fact, we need to control. It's the only way to affect this world around us. You know, the hands that we use to craft something. You know, the heart that we have to make decisions for the ones we love. The mind we use to make rational decisions to better the world around us and ourselves through anything we can think up. If we can't predict the path that we go down, we don't know if we can do any of those things. We don't have that concrete evidence. It's not there in front of us. And in the present, we feel lost in that. We feel lost in a world that's uncertain because it's unpredictable and we can't do a thing about it. And in that, we're powerless. And powerlessness causes irrationality, and that causes fear. And fear causes more irrationality, and we go back to a place where we truly have no power because we're engulfed by a fear that truly is crippling. And that is scarier than anything. You know, when not only are we, I guess, powerless in the present, not only are we powerless to control the future in this present, but we're powerless in all forms within ourselves because we try to fight that. And at that point, you feel truly lost, deep, saddened, broken, defeated. Now, for me, I try to avoid that because I've been there so many times. It's what caused me to gain 100 pounds and fortunately lose that. But at the time, I didn't have any way to go at that. You know, I didn't know. And I kept trying to escape that powerlessness that I felt like I had over my eating habits. I tried to go and eat healthy in these extreme ways that were fear-based. And I couldn't predict if it would work or not, but I trusted in my fear for some reason. And I did it, and I failed. I kept failing. You know, I kept caving in to the stress that I induced upon myself to avoid stress that would be brought on by failing. So I failed. All these times we run away, and eventually you get to a point where you can't run anymore. You can only walk. Walk in a way that's controlled, and you feel like you can do that without fear of whatever's behind you. Like when I started losing the weight that I gained. Now I've lost more weight than I've gained, and I'm glad I have. But I didn't do that through running away. I did it through walking wherever I needed to go, no matter if it was towards the threat or not. And I couldn't predict where I was going, but I trusted I would get there and it would be safe. I didn't think much more than any intrusive thought, it seems. You know, I problem solved, I planned like I should, but I didn't put this fearful, I guess, panic-induced standard on myself to do so. I just went with the flow, dude. Went with the flow. That's what it seems like, at least. I was taught to do that. In a treatment program, I was taught that going with the flow, being mindful, actually being present, and not rushing through fear to the destination, that is the best way to get to the destination. Because the thing is about fear, and we know this from a biological standpoint, that fear response is meant to act quickly, urgently, irrationally, so that you just don't get hurt. You don't want to get killed. You don't want to get fucked up. You don't want to get your face ripped off by the big lion in the bushes. You want to make sure that no matter what, you're away from that threat. And so you would do that. But the thing is, we're not in the wilderness anymore. We're not in the woods. We're not in the jungle or the plains, in the fields. We're in a home. We're in an office building. We're in a city. We're in a town. Things don't work like that anymore. And as much as we want to convince ourselves that it's translatable 100%, it's not. It is translatable in some ways. I mean, our brain works the way it does, and we use our biological mechanisms to operate through the world, but the external world grows faster than the internal. We do grow with it in a way, but not completely proportionate. In fact, barely proportionate at all. We've had very little time to develop to this world that we're in. And so when we get fear about a deadline we have to meet, or if we get fear about, being not good enough or being dangerous or killing ourselves through drugs and alcohol or through food or through our just general lifestyle, if we're worried about a relationship falling apart, if we're worried about our parents thinking that we're bad and that we'll never be good enough for them, if we work through fear with that, we're going to get the same response as if there was a genuine threat coming at us. And there might be, but we don't have the opportunity to spring into the next bush over there and hide. It's not like that anymore. And it sucks that it is, but it's not. So what we do is we find true ways through that same external world that is meant for us now, that were crafted through the mechanisms in which life flourishes from nowadays. This city life, the city folk and the townsfolk, not the bears and the bees in the wilderness. And so inside my head, when I was in that wilderness, I had to use things that I learned from this real world here. Treatment, videos I've watched, anything, a book I'm reading right now, any sort of thing that you've gotten data from, information, numbers and digits, zeros and ones, whatever it is, you use that because it's applicable to now. Even if it's not directly applicable to now, at least it's human. At least it has a mind. At least it has words to be seen and read. At least it has a heart. If we just rely on this base amygdala that we have in our head that makes decisions based on whatever's around it from a fucking barely contextual standpoint, even though it is contextual, it's not that contextual, then the context might be too much for us. And we might falter in it. We might fail. And I don't know, it just seems that the future often seems like this insurmountable, death that we eventually get to if we don't have a very optimistic view of it. It's almost as if our favorite show is about to end and we know this last season sucks and it's just going to be over. Like it's done. Shit. All that good stuff, it just crashed down and now I have no resolution. It was all bullshit. It's like Game of Thrones, basically. So every time that we think about the future and we don't have a good view of it, our world kind of crumbles. Our fear kicks in and the present becomes filled with that same fear. That's not even applicable to it in the same way. Well, it's a tough life to live when you live that way. In fact, it's not a life at all because it's preparing for a death. And that's only the end. It really is. And so, as life seems vague and uncertain and scary and unpredictable, unfathomable, I think we just need to cling on to the notions that that's what's going on. It seems that way. It's perceived to be that way. Our perspective is skewed towards that negative direction. And whatever we do with that is whatever. I mean, that's up to you. But I think that awareness of that notion, that the perception truly is the reality, and we'll perceive that reality to be the worst one possible. But it's just perception. It truly is. We might not even know our own reality currently in the way that we need to. We might think negatively about our circumstances now, and maybe there is a silver lining within them, but we don't see it. So as long as we can work that perception and find out what's in there, what's causing all of this and what to do about it, which is a fucking journey of its own that, I don't know, I guess I'll talk about as time goes on. But as long as we do that, then there's light regardless. Because you're making strides towards a better future compared to the true powerlessness of only fearing it and staying stuck and stagnant within that fear. Now, all of this is complicated. All of this is scary in itself, and it's never something easy, and I'm never trying to make it seem like you just got to change your mindset. It's not as simple as that, even though that is the root thing. Honestly, it is. To construct a better perception so that you can perceive life in a more positive way, and so that that stuff that comes within that perception is coped with better. Like that is the way that I did it, but it's not simple, and it takes a big first step and plenty of other big steps. And I'm here to talk you through that if you need help. If you want to go and pursue that life, then do it. I'm here. I'll hear for you. I'm here. And I'll talk you through it just as I talk myself through it. Because all these things, they're important for everyone involved. Everyone who wants to listen, including myself. And I'm here. So that's all for today. See ya!